Good morning. Welcome, everyone.
You may stand if you like or don't and join.
Spirit is in this place.
Words are on the screen. How hot is this? Are we ready? Good morning, Unity. I'm Mandy Russell, a member of Unity, and I welcome you to Unity of the Hill Country, where we offer a positive path for spiritual living. Let us pray. We give thanks for this beautiful day, full of possibilities. We feel God's presence and power in us and all around us. We are truly blessed. Feeling wholeness, we extend this blessing to everybody. We bless all people, regardless of what they believe or who they love. We know that there are many paths to God, many names for God, but only one God. And God is expressing through all creation. We come together this morning to experience and express the Christ Spirit that dwells within each of us, and so it is. Amen. If you're joining us on Facebook from home, we would like to take a moment and say welcome and connect in consciousness with you. So let's close our eyes and connect through a deep breath. Okay. Please feel free to comment and introduce yourselves. This is our time to be together and share in love. Feel free to post and tweet about Unity of the Hill Country, but please silence your phone so it does not disturb our gathering. Unity is a global, inclusive, spiritual community. We offer practical, uplifting resources to help people of all faiths apply positive spiritual principles. Unity provides a positive alternative to negative religious experiences. Please join me in affirming our mission and vision statements. Together, celebrating the divine potential in all, as well as our statement of faith. There is only one presence and one power active in my life and in the universe, God, the good, the omnipotent. The Daily Word helps keeps the Unity movement connected worldwide since 1924. This week's reader is Donna Gillespie.
Good morning, y'all. Okay. We got the 60, it's getting there. We're getting there. There we go. All right. The word for today is reflection. And the affirmation is, I reflect the brilliant light of God. Let's say that together one more time. I reflect the brilliant light of God. God, the one presence and power in the universe, is expressing through all people, the natural world, and all aspects of life. If ever I doubt the presence of God, I need only behold the world around me. The light of God is being reflected in the kind words and acts of people, in the beauty and magnificence of nature, and in life's grand rhythms and minuscule movements. I, too, reflect the brilliance of God. My ideas, dreams, and all I do to make my mark on the world are just some of the ways the divine expresses uniquely as me. Living from my divinity, I bring more of God's light into the world. And from Corinthians 3:18, all of us, seeing the glory of the Lord as though reflected in a mirror, we are being transformed into the same image from one degree of glory to another. And let's say the affirmation one more time. I reflect the brilliant light of God.
Reverend Bob has a few announcements for us.
I'm back. I missed you guys. I hope you have not been behaving yourself while I was gone. I went to the national convention there the last week of June and came back and had the long honey-do list from you-know-who, and I got a chest cold, so I just had to kind of stay in bed and sleep in and all those other things because it was a message from God. But I was also texting back and forth with Melinda a little bit because, we have not been here together for 5 weeks now. So she went to the music directors convention, the week before I went off to the national convention there up in Kansas City. So we're chock full of new ideas. So strap on your seatbelts. We're going to experiment with some various things, maybe some changes, some ideas. So give us your feedback and all that. But also remember, change can be uncomfortable. So if it's a little bit different, just dig deep and figure out what's going on. One of the conversations at the Unity Convention was, again, and it's been an ongoing conversation now for about 20 years, is like, do we consider ourselves Christians? You know, and there are some people like, there's just too much baggage, you know, with the evangelical Christians for us to call ourselves a Christian and expect people to understand who we are. And yet, we do live in a country and in a town where working with, say, the Christian ideas or the Bible, you know, is very helpful to people. They've got some background in it. But I was having a conversation with someone this week who was raised without, you know, any understanding of the Bible. So she had some questions about me, especially these words I used, you know, back when I was here, you know, last time on the 25th of June. And so, yeah, we kind of talked that through. But as many of you know, as I've said very many times, you know, we approach the Bible differently in that we recognize there is a powerful, consistent symbolism that runs through the book, and that's why it's relevant in 2023, even though it might have been written 2,000, 3,000 years ago. So just wanted to give you a heads up on that. Also, it looks like we finally have debugged the hearing system and the live streaming on Facebook. I know someone had expressed to Carla that they weren't quite sure, you know, how to use the hearing system, so you know, we'll be glad to coach you. I know there's some instructions out there and all, but sometimes just doing it hands-on helps. And the other thing is that we're going to, you know, I know many people are chomping at the bit. You know, I've been here a year now, so it's kind of like, okay, what do we do now? What do we do next? So we've got some things cooked up for September and October in which we'll probably get together, set some goals for the next 12 months, and I'll be offering a book study, mulling over. I'm thinking of looking at the symbolism of the book of Revelation, you know, last book in the Bible that has all that wonderful fire and brimstone stuff. And like I said, it's like whoever wrote it, I think, dropped acid before he started to write. Remember to grab some of our promotional cards. Like I say, it's so much easier than, you know, standing there and thinking. I tell people, look, if you're talking to somebody about Unity, tell them why you come. What is it that's special about this place to you? But sometimes it's nice to just slip somebody a card rather than feeling like you need to do a testimony, you know, about Unity. So make sure you always have a couple of those with you. We do have a 60-second survey. We have noticed that there are some people who are technology challenged. And Brad Gilbert is pretty good at this stuff. So it was kind of like, well, what if we were to get people together for a particular workshop on a particular day? Because Brad does have other things to do here. So yes, the card that you got in the pencil, one, would you be interested in a technology workshop? And that means, you know, also known as figuring out my phone, my computer, my et cetera, okay? And if so, oh boy, how I managed to do that. Number one, what is the best day and time for you? So just take about 15 seconds, scribble that down, and pass it over to the aisle.
All right, y'all can hand your cards down the aisle. The ushers will come pick them up for you. The Unity movement started in 1889 with an answered prayer. Are y'all being silly? Okay. The Unity movement started in 1889 with an answered prayer. Myrtle Fillmore was healed of tuberculosis. We are honored to pray with you. Place a prayer request in the prayer box near the door, email us, or go to unityhillcountry.org and click on Ministries. Please join us in our congregational song, Infinite Wisdom Guides My Way. You can follow along with the lyrics on the screen, and the music team will help us with the melody. Following that, we will prepare for our period of meditation, and as always, if you'd like to stand, you are welcome.
Infinite wisdom guides my way. My path appears as bright as day. God leads me on and gives me strength. Assured I shall arrive at length. 'Tis love divine that prospers me. Health and all good abundantly. With substance rich my life is blessed, and in God's care I find sweet rest. In conscious union all are one, each day anew with light and love. All of life's windows open wide, my utmost needs are all supplied.
And now is our meditation music.
All is well, and I am grateful. All is well, and now it's time to let it go. All is well, and I am grateful. All is well, and all is well. All is well, and I am grateful. All is well, and now it's time to let it go. All is well, and I am grateful. Life is good, and all is well. Life is good, and so it is.
And close your eyes. Let's get our bodies grounded. Feel the chair holding you up. Feel the back of the chair against your back. Feel your feet on the floor and ground the energy as if you're growing roots. Notice the tip of your nose right now. Is it cool or is it warm? Our bodies are safe and secure. Now let's go within. We are open and receptive to God's living spirit of truth. The divine loving guidance that comes to each of us. And as we allow any separation or any illusion of separation between ourselves and God to just melt away, we know that we are one. In unity, when we meditate or when we take time for prayer or focused imagination, we know that we like to start by praying for others. Bring to mind any individuals, any families, any groups, situations you'd like to pray for now. Let's also include all of the written prayers that have been placed in the prayer chest out on the credenza there in the hallway. And any prayer requests that have been mailed to us or emailed to us or submitted on our website. We don't need to know the specifics. We just need to just see that light, that energy, the divine love just immersed. Each of these prayer requests unfolding. We see the divine substance, the divine potential, and the divine perfection in and expressing through. Each of these requests as wholeness, as its highest good unfolding in the healthiest way. Let's now pray for unity of the Hill Country. We see this amazing congregation, this spiritual community thriving in consciousness, people, and revenues today and every day hereafter. The God presence as unity of the Hill Country is a divine magnet attracting anyone who can benefit from who we are and what we are about, attracting health, prosperity, love, and joy, unity of the Hill Country and all who are guided here today and every day hereafter. And now I encourage you to take these words that I'm about to speak as your own prayer words in this meditation this morning. I now ponder my thoughts and my feelings about money. I call to mind any individuals, situations that I need to forgive. I include forgiving myself, forgiving God as I think I know God to be. I deny, dissolve, and release any thoughts or feelings of lack or unworthiness. I abide in the glory of God's presence, in a richness beyond comprehension. I no longer depend on persons, property, positions, or circumstances to supply my needs. The powerful energy of abundance will find its way to me if I am open and receptive to it. I embrace this divine idea of spiritual substance, the energy that underlies all existence. And as I prepare for 2 minutes of silence, I embrace and express this divine idea of prosperity in the silence. God, for your presence in us, through us, and as us. I embrace the constant flow of spiritual substance into and through my life, into and through my health, my occupation, my relationships, my financial supply, and my spiritual growth. I see, I feel, I know that all my needs are met, my obligations fulfilled, my desires demonstrated with plenty to spare and to share today and every day hereafter. And for my ever-growing awareness of this omnipotence, omniscience, and the omnipresence that we know as God, I open my heart chakra and pour forth gratitude. I pray these things in the name and the nature and the power that we know is symbolized by Jesus Christ. And as we draw our focus back to the sanctuary, we listen to the invocation written by one of our founders, Charles Fillmore. We are now in the presence of pure being, immersed in the Holy Spirit of life, love, and wisdom. We acknowledge thy presence and thy power, O blessed Spirit, and by divine wisdom now erase our mortal limitations, and from thy pure substance of love bring into manifestation our world according to thy perfect law. Amen. Okay, time for our spiritual hug. Virtual hug for those on Facebook. A woman was on her deathbed. Her husband of 62 years was at her side. And she says to him, "Go into the spare bedroom next to my sewing table. There's a big blue basket there. There's something I need to show you before I go." So he goes in and he gets this basket. It's unusually heavy, of course, not that he had ever picked it up before. And he comes in and he puts the basket down. And she said, "Open it." And he opens it and he sees these two beautiful crocheted dolls. But then underneath it, he sees stacks and stacks of $100 bills. And he said, "Okay, what's this all about?" She says, "Well, I got wonderful advice from my grandmother before we got married. She said, whenever you find yourself so angry that you want to kill your husband, instead crochet a doll. It'll dissipate the energy and you'll once again be able to see the divine in him." And he's kind of tears up. "Two dolls? You mean there have only been 2 times that you felt angry enough that you might want to kill me?" And she says, "No, I mean, underneath it is $92,000 I got from selling all of the rest of the dolls I've made over these 62 years. You idiot. Back about 60 years ago, the University of Michigan, actually probably longer now, started polling people, doing surveys on people's attitudes about various things. And 3 of the questions were, 1, what do people worry about the most? What makes them happiest? And what makes them unhappiest? And all 3 of these things, worry about the most. Happiest? Money. Unhappiest? Money. And I've heard marriage counselors talk about how often it's the disparity about the attitude towards money that often causes a lot of marriages to be in trouble or break up. So this morning I want to talk about money. A lot of you know Carla and I traveled during the 90s, visiting Unity congregations, talking about these spiritual principles of prosperity. But I am also aware that some of you may be sitting and thinking, oh God, I'm in church and he's bringing up money. I suppose he wants me to dig out my checkbook. No, that's not what I'm talking about. Oh, of course, if you do want to take out your checkbook, But I want to talk about this aspect of money. And, in Unity we have this concept, hey, we don't need to raise money, we need to raise consciousness. And when we are to open completely to this divine flow of the spiritual substance, things can indeed start going swimmingly for us. Spiritual substance is a concept that has kind of been proven by quantum physicists. There's this underlying energy, vibrating molecules and all that makes up everything from the chair you're sitting on to your right thumbnail. And it's manipulated by our thoughts, our feelings, especially the use of our imagination. Rarely a day goes by that we don't have to somehow have some sort of an exchange of money or financial supply, right? We can't say ride a bus without paying a fare. As the old saying goes, it's time to pay the piper, who played the music for our party. Yet many people consider money unspiritual. There's this fundamentalist end of the spiritual spectrum that preaches that money is the root of all evil. And during the Middle Ages, oligarchs who were concerned about the people revolting would pay clergy to tell them, hey, it's okay to be poor. Don't worry about it. But it's not okay to be poor. It can be a very painful, very scary experience. So yeah, churches need to pay the bills, but hey, everybody does. So if indeed this stuff that we use every day is unspiritual, it just doesn't make any sense in so many ways. Back on August 6, 1912, Theodore Roosevelt said, as I look out over this country and over these people, I stand for a living wage. Wages are not normal if they fail to provide a living for those who devote 40 hours of their time and energy in industrial occupations. The monetary equivalent of a living wage will vary according to local conditions, but must include enough to secure the elements of a normal standard of living. A standard high enough to make morality possible, to provide for education and recreation, to care for immature members of the family, to maintain the family during periods of sickness, and to permit reasonable savings for old age. Like I said, that was Theodore Roosevelt, August 6, 1912. We've had this kind of swing back and forth, in our economy, but it's been true for these, for hundreds of years now, worldwide, of varying degrees of prosperity for everybody. It seems that especially here, talk about the living wage. Okay, if you work 40 hours, hey, that should be fine.
Yeah, it should, and I remember in this one, there's actually a recording of this speech that was done by Thomas Edison as he was testing out the recording devices. But he was saying, you should be able to go on a vacation every year, with your family. One person should be able to earn enough, for the family, that kind of stuff. But especially since, say, 1981, 1982, there's been this whole recombobulation of, well, really though, how much is manual labor worth? And how much is it worth to be a CEO of a big company? I know that, as many of you heard, the SAG-AFTRA went on strike this week in alignment with the writers because the whole business model of entertainment changed. But Robert Iger, who's the CEO of Disney, was on CNBC this week, and he's saying, this is awful, this is stupid. He says these actors, these writers, they have unrealistic expectations. Yet I also heard a spokesman for SAG-AFTRA, and that's the Screen Actors Guild and the American Federation of Television and Radio Artists, say that, well, we have this union, and we contributions into the various aspects of it, pension, health care, and other things, but in order to qualify for health insurance, you need to earn at least $26,000 for the year. Says, you want to know how many people qualify for that over this last year? 18%. $26,000. Now, set aside the actor situation, but they couldn't help but point out that here's Bob Iger on CNBC saying, their expectations are unrealistic, and yet he makes $27 million a year. So we've got, it used to be, I think in the 1950s, usually the CEO made 100 times, or I guess it was 10 times onto the lowest paid employee. So suddenly there's this strange thing that happened in the 1980s where suddenly we're trying to say, well, if you work 40 hours, that's not enough. It just doesn't make sense. Well, I'd mentioned earlier this idea that money is the root of all evil. When you do crack open the Bible and you look at the Christian Testament, there are these series of letters, and one of them is 1 Timothy, 6th chapter, 10th verse. And what it's written is, for it is the worship of money that is evils, plural. So it's not so much about money, it's about our attitude towards money. And that's what's going to allow us as individuals, as groups and all of that to thrive, is when we're in that flow. And by worship, some translations have the love of money. Worship means, what's your priority? What do you put first in your life? I discovered unity when I was 30 years old, and I realized how much I focused on the fear that I didn't have enough money. And slowly but surely I started that practice of really honestly putting this God presence as I know God to be first. If I turn to that, whatever we focus on is going to expand. So do you want to focus on the idea, the feeling, the fear that you don't have enough money? Or do you want to focus on that if we are truly one and connected with God, we got to trust that we will be provided for, as Jesus said. And consider the lilies of the field, consider the sparrows. God takes care of them. You think God won't take care of you? Well, as I mentioned, there's this attitude of greed, corruption, graft, all evils, as it's put here in this particular thing. So it's really up to us. Money is neutral. It's a matter of what do we make as our priorities. Is it proper to pray? When Carl and I would teach, the prosperity principles, we said, well, yeah, there's nothing wrong technically with praying for money. but what is it that you want to do with this money? It's better to pray for the outcome of what you're trying to pray for rather than the money. Like if, say, I want to go buy a new car this week, $35,000, do I pray for money? Or do I pray for good, reliable transportation? Do I see myself driving that car? You know, and I've seen, I know years ago Edwin Gaines, you know, the famous prosperity teacher in Unity, talked about how a woman just was sure that she wanted a specific kind of sports car. And so Edwin coached her and said, well, don't worry about the money, just focus on that coming to you somehow. And within the next week, she won a sweepstakes in which she won the car. And I know, even before I knew Unity, you know, I was working at a TV station in Wichita, Kansas, and that's how I knew what Carla's town was when we met finally in 1986. Things were a bit rough for me and my first wife, and we recognized we've got one car, but it sure would be nice if we had two cars. And there was this social group that would get together when we played volleyball, every week. And so I'm at this volleyball thing, and the facilitator is actually a professor at Wichita State University. And and I hear him talking to this other, he goes, do you know anyone who needs a car? You know, I've got this 1965, Ford Galaxy station wagon that runs. You know, it's 20 years old, but it runs. And I'm like, yeah, I know someone who needs a car. And sure enough, I mean, it was a bit of an old clunker, but I'll be darned. I mean, that thing would run. The air conditioner was broken on it, but, like they say, there's that all 40 air conditioning where you open up all of the windows and drive 40 miles an hour, and suddenly you're a little bit cooler. So that's where I coach people. It's like, okay, instead use your imagination, use your energy to start forming this spiritual substance, it's kind of spiritual Play-Doh, into what it is you want to see happen, your thoughts and then feelings, that you can bring some passion into it. There is a way. And as many people have been coached in Unity, this, Lord, or something better. I'm open and receptive to something that I wasn't considering right now, but I'm certainly would be happy if this better thing came into my life. Jesus shows us in the four Gospels that there's nothing wrong with the use of money. And there's nothing wrong here again with imagining and praying for what it is you want to see manifest. In Matthew 17th chapter, the tax collectors are coming through. And they ask Peter, are you guys paying the tax? And Peter says, yes. Of course, he catches the fish with the coin in the mouth. Now, it is wonderful symbolism because fish is the symbol for an idea. There's a service. You can sell the fish and you get coin. But I know back when, about 20 years ago, there was a story out of Europe where a fisherman had caught a fish, and when he was gutting it, he found an old Roman coin in the belly of this fish. And I remember going to Laura Bennett there at Unity Village and said, well, what do you think of this? Maybe it wasn't symbolism after all. In Mark 10th chapter 17th, there's the rich young ruler. What do I need to do to have eternal life? And Jesus says to him, sell all your things, give it to the poor, and follow me. Now, a lot of people say, well, that shows that Jesus didn't want people to be rich. No. It was a test. If you give away all that you have, or if you lose all that you have, look at the people who have these natural disasters, guys. You lose everything. Do you know that somehow, some way, everything's going to be all right? And that's in the way they describe it, as the right young ruler got very perplexed and walked away. So it was more just a matter of he recognized that, oh, if I give everything away, I won't have anything anymore. It doesn't work like that. And in Luke, 8th chapter, first verse, the question is answered, how did Jesus pay for his ministry? Many of the people who had been healed gave the group money, and it names several women of means who paid the expenses. I remember once this quote from one of Gandhi's aides. It says, "You'd be amazed how much money it takes to keep Gandhi in poverty." You're always traveling around and telling everybody, it's like, okay, throw off the rules the British Empire, has put on us, so he would go and he'd sew his fabric and all of that. Says, yeah, but it was just a matter of getting people to feel empowered again. Yeah, so money's not good or bad. It's what we do with it that we can either label good or bad, pleasant or unpleasant. Gospel of Matthew, 6th chapter, says you can't serve God and mammon. Getting that, you can't serve God and money. It's like, okay, if money is the most important thing in my life and that's what I'm focused on, then you'll have challenges in your life. Civil societies cannot function without currency. We've all kind of learned our general world history about bartering and small villages. You go see Fiddler on the Roof, and hear these people bartering with each other. But if I'm a furniture maker and I make you a chair, do you need a chair every week? So we've come up with the system. It's got its flaws of like, okay, there are these pieces of paper that that you have a certain amount of. In fact, let's take a look at the slide here. It's interesting because in the United States, back after the Civil War, we put "In God We Trust." On our coins. We didn't actually put them on our coins or on our paper money until 1957, because we had to show those godless communists they were a God-fearing country. How do you feel about a $1 bill? Okay, Brad, let's fix this. Go ahead, put up the next slide. Much better. But yeah, in God we trust. But do you feel differently about this photograph? Do you feel differently when you have a $100 bill in your hand compared to having a $1 bill in your hand? What's the difference? The meaning that we give to it. It is a symbol that it's kind of like a symbol of this spiritual substance. Let's say I need to go to San Antonio. I get on I-10, or better yet, I'm lost on some highway and say, how do I get to San Antonio? And then I see a sign that San Antonio, 45 miles that direction. Now I could pull up to the sign and say, San Antonio, here I am. Sure would be nice to be in San Antonio. No, it's a symbol of like, okay, this allows you to do all of those other things, so. All right, do you feel worthy? Do you feel like it's okay? Because money is only valuable when it's circulated. If it's sitting in my wallet, it's not doing much. It might give me a sense of security, but the money isn't the security. The security comes from nowhere, and it's all going to be okay. We don't eat money. We don't build our homes with money. But here again, it allows us to do these things. So it's important that we change our thoughts, our beliefs, our attitudes about money. So I might look at my outer appearances like I did say about a year and a half ago. Carl and I are out of work there in the Tampa area. Looking for a congregation to serve. And I could find myself saying, oh man, look at my situation here, I need more money. Well, the universe says yes to anything you put out. So if I say, I need more money, the universe or the God presence says, yes you do. How would you like me to help? What is it that you want? What is it that you would like? So I learned from Eric Butterworth to change whenever I find myself saying I need more money or something like that, to change my affirmative to, my money needs more of me. My money needs more of me. So in order to attract money into our lives, or whatever it is, like I say, a car, a house, a companion, it's a matter of putting it out there, using our imagination. Okay, what specifically do I want? Can I put it down on paper? Can I set a goal? Can I maybe speak it out as a prayer? Writing it in the present tense. And then just being willing to kind of put that out, let it go. Like we had in the one song we did earlier. Just, okay, all is well, and I'm willing to let the rest go. So let it go. So each of us have been gifts, passions, and talents that we can use to serve this world and make it a better place. The challenge is there are so many people that short sell what it is they do. I did a funeral for this wonderful woman who was kind of like the matriarch of this extended family there in Indianapolis when Carla and I were serving the Unity Spiritual Center there. I got to know her a little bit, and then she passed away, and as I talked to people about, well, tell me about Edie. And what I recognized is that Edie did something that did not have a label, but she did it incredibly effectively. And that was she was a life coach. And it's funny because I'm talking to her, I mean, you hear this woman in her 90s, and, and in talking to her, it turns out she was part of a motorcycle in the 1950s, stuff like this. So, we make these assumptions about people. But what it was is that he would feel lovingly take anyone in an extended family aside and say, look, you are really screwing this up. Might want to consider doing things differently. Well, I just hit myself in the head with a hammer. Well, do you want to do that? Put down the hammer. So economists have been troubled, over these last, say, 40 years about, how there's been this hoarding of money, to the top. And yet, we just, of course, had the pandemic, and we passed this infrastructure bill for the first time in, let's see, what was it, like 70 years. Back in 1953, after Dwight Eisenhower had been elected, our country's debt was 120% of gross domestic product. Now, the general logic was, well, God, if you're over 100% of your gross domestic product, that's a very unhealthy place to be. And Eisenhower said, yes, you're right. That's why we need to borrow a lot of money and work on the infrastructure of this country. The interstate highway system, dams, roads, bridges, college education, free, paid for by the government. And all of these things happened, and what happened in the late 1950s and the 1960s? Suddenly, the economy was stimulated because there was so much more money in circulation. And sure enough, they were able to pay down that debt. And so sometimes it is a matter of, well, I remember FDR in the Great Depression. I remember reading that he said, we need to put these people to work. Because I want you to hire a crew of people to dig a ditch today. And then have them move over to the next road to dig a ditch. He goes, and then have another crew that you're hired to fill in that ditch. He goes, the point is to just get people feeling like they're contributing to society and pay them for it. And here again, this whole thing with the strike in Hollywood, it's like computers are taking over. So if that's the case, what are we going to do? How are we going to organize things to make sure everybody's needs are being taken care of? That's this whole idea behind the universal basic income. The people, receiving a certain stipend from taxes Well, Eddie, let me keep rolling here. Like I said, money is not our security. It's the complete confidence that spiritual substance can be demonstrated in our lives. And one of the things that blocks the flow of money is unforgiveness. You know, if we are angry, if we are, I just want to kill my husband, I guess I better go crochet a doll. You know, sort of a thing. You choke off this energy. You know, I mean, I feel it. You know, when I'll get upset about something, you know, you can feel the chakras all slipping shut, you know. But if on the other hand, it's like, okay, all right. You know, I'm going to trust and know that everything's okay. And maybe I just need to, instead of making this world right, to see this world rightfully. So we use our imagination. We let go of the doubts, of the fears. We work on our forgiveness, even if we're doing it through grit teeth. As Jesus said to Peter, you know, how many times do you need to forgive? How about 70 times 7? You know, 7 being the symbolism of until it's done. so, as I said before, my money needs more of me. The power of affirmative prayer. And I want you to ask yourself these following questions. I didn't think of them early enough to give them to Brad to put in your handout. So, but what I want you to do is, okay, you're having a sense of lack in something in your life. Ask yourself these questions. You know, what do I really love to do? What are your gifts, passions, and talents? We're waiting for you to contribute. We're waiting for you to make this world a better place. What am I passionate about? That's a good clue. It's like, oh, wow. I've been loving this so much, I realized I haven't eaten lunch. You know, just that sort of energy. What do I do better than anyone I know? You know, like I said before, Edie, with being the life coach, it was like, wow. You know, when you talk to all of these children, grandchildren, and great-grandchildren, it was kind of like, yeah, she just had this loving, subtle way of saying, get your stuff together. What would you do if you were guaranteed that you could not fail? So work with those questions this next week. And then I did come up with a kind of summary of what we talked about today, so that our takeaways for this week, the truth about money. 1, I check my thoughts and feelings when I handle my money. How do I feel when money's coming into my life? How do I feel when it's going out of my life? Do I foresee, do I project into the future pleasantness or unpleasantness in any area of my life? Number 2, can I release the doubts and the fears that I have about this? Number 3, I use the affirmation regularly. My money needs me. I'm going to apply my imagination, my gifts, passions, and talents, and do this. I bless the money coming and going. Blessing means I just confer prospering energy. I see it growing wherever it goes, and know that whatever we put out into the universe will come back to us multiplied. Number 5, draw spiritual substance in the void in your life. If you have an empty wallet, rejoice. You've got plenty of room for money in there. You know, and this can apply to any part of your life. You know, it's like, okay, I have identified what I perceive as a need. God, let's go to work. Number 6, what do I love to do? Because bringing love and compassion into what you're doing, I mean, it opens up that flow like nothing else. And then number 7, follow through the guidance. You know, we get these ideas, we know for sure, yeah, this is something I want to do. Follow through on it. Well, how am I going to be able to buy a car this week for $35,000? Well, what are positive steps you can take? Have you gone to the dealer and tested your old car? You know, have you smelled the fine Corinthian leather in the car? Did you know that smells like fine Corinthian leather? Okay, so those are your takeaways this week. And I've got a 3-minute video from Steve Harvey of CBS Evening News. Now, if we all focus on the screen and send our loving energy to the electronics gods, perhaps we can demonstrate the video that I want to share with you. There we go. See, it works.
For as long as he can remember, Mark Kuhn has been riding a tractor at the family farm in Charles City, Iowa. Which is why, as a kid, whenever Mark wanted to see beyond the soybeans, he'd go to his grandpa's house, where the old man would take him on exotic adventures.
He introduced me to his shortwave radio, and he took me all places all over the world.
Labour chases his back, plays a beautiful backhand down the line.
Including England, where one day they stumbled on a BBC broadcast of the championships Wimbledon. For Mark, it was instantly game, set, match.
What did you like about it?
Well, the accent was neat.
The accent?
Yes, and we quickly got into the way to score. We didn't understand it. Why did it go to 15 and then 30 and then 40, and love?
It was the beginning of what became a lifelong obsession with Wimbledon. Of course, a lot of people like Wimbledon and grass court tennis. But what makes Mark outstanding in this field is what is now outstanding in his field.
What was formerly a cattle feedlot is now the All-Iowa Lawn Tennis Club, a replica of Wimbledon's center court. It took Mark a year and a half to build it. Then he learned to maintain it during an internship with the Wimbledon ground staff. And that's all he wanted, just to grow and groom the grass. Which is why Mark was as surprised as anyone when after he built it, they came. From around the world, they came to play on his court of dreams. These kids are from Iowa and Minnesota, here to compete in an invitational tournament. And that's umpire Baron Whitting, also from Minnesota.
And when I found that there's a place in the middle of Iowa in a cornfield, it's like, get in the car, So I came down as fast as I could.
What happens when you build it and they do come?
Well, they'll come from anywhere and everywhere, and they'll come at all times of the night.
Does it make you wish you hadn't built it?
Never. No.
Great to have you play here. You're very welcome.
Mark lets people play for free, with a reservation. And so far, tennis fans from 42 states and 6 countries have made the pilgrimage to this tennis heaven, here amongst the Iowa cornfields.
There you go, in the middle, way to be.
What would your grandpa think if he saw that?
Oh, he'd be very pleased. I know he would.
How could he not be? And certainly, if there are shortwave radios in heaven, you know he's listening. Steve Harvey, on the road, in Charles City, Iowa.
I want to close with a reading from that first letter to Timothy, 6th chapter, starting with the 9th verse. Those who only desire to be rich fall into temptation, into a snare, into many senseless and hurtful desires that plunge people into ruin and destruction. For the worship of money is the root of all evils. It is through this craving that some have wandered away from the faith and pierced their minds. But as for you, an expression of God, shun all of this. Aim at righteousness, godliness, faith, love, steadfastness, and gentleness. And may you always be open to God's guidance and grace.
It's time for special music.
I am happy, healthy, wealthy, and wise. I'm happy, healthy, wealthy, and wise. And I know the light of God is shining in my eyes. I'm happy,
Well, thank y'all. That was very nice. If this is your first time at Unity, we're glad you're here. We hope that you are finding a place of like-minded people and a place to belong. We teach spiritual tools that can help you no matter what is going on in your life. Generosity is important to us. We will donate $5 to a local charity of your choice. Just write your email on the card in our welcome packet. Leave it in our office, and we don't want to put you on the spot, but if you are new today and you would like a welcome packet, please raise your hand, or we can have you get one on your way out. Does anybody want a packet? Okay. Oh, I'm sorry. We now have an opportunity to support our spiritual cooperative. If you would like to donate by credit card, go to our website, unityhillcountry.org, and click on the donate button. Please set up an automatic weekly or monthly contribution. If you would prefer to mail us checks, please mail them to Unity of the Hill Country, 1016 Jefferson Street, Kerrville, Texas, 78028. We thank you in advance for your generosity. And would the ushers please bring the offering baskets up? And together, let us say our offertory blessing. Divine love as me blesses and multiplies all that I am, all that I give, and all that I receive, and I send it forth with my blessings and my love. Freely free. We open our hearts in gratitude for these freely given donations. We send these gifts forward through our congregation and into our world, blessing all that it affects. Amen. We have some announcements, so please refer to the schedule of events on the back of your takeaways handout. The Serenity Al-Anon meeting meets at noon on Mondays. If you have a friend or a loved one suffering from addiction and you need support, please visit Al-Anon. A Course in Miracles, facilitated by Charlie Diggs, meets at 4 p.m. on Wednesdays. This meeting will meet on Zoom until the end of August. Please reach out if you are interested in participating, and we will put you in touch with Charlie. Codependence Anonymous meets weekly on Thursdays at 7 p.m. This is an open meeting for anyone interested. Please visit coda.org for more information. The Center of Calm Meditation Group meets weekly, 10:30 a.m. on Thursdays. You also have an opportunity to use the Meditation Chapel before service on Sundays starting at 10:15. If you're on Facebook, join our new group, Unity Spiritual Network, to stay connected with our community online. Because we care about and love our church family, we want to let you know there is a team of members available for you. Please let us know if you or a fellow member is ill, has had an accident, is in the hospital, needs something delivered to them, needs assistance at home, or simply needs to hear a friendly voice. We are here for you. Please contact our office or Terry Conatori. If you would like an opportunity to serve our community, please be a Sunday host, usher, daily word reader, etc. Please let us know using the sign-up sheets in the lobby. There is a new volunteer schedule through September, If you did not receive a copy, please see Brad in the office. And with that, we have come to the end of our gathering. Please join us in a circle around the room in the peace song, followed by our prayer for protection. And it is Potluck Sunday. Please come, even if you didn't bring a dish today.